call the preliminary agenda review in session of the Knox County Commission on Monday, June 17th. Want to thank everybody for being here. This is the first day of our new meeting schedule. So this is just an agenda review. The structure is a little bit looser. We do not have to call roll or take minutes. So what I'm going to ask is, we have a couple of items that have been pulled by specific commissioners for discussion. I'm going to read those off, and then if you would like to add anything, just please let me know. From consent, Commissioner Oster, number 50, she's deferring to July. Schoonmaker, items 29 and item 30. And Frazier, items 22 and 32. Does anyone have anything else they would like pulled for discussion? Commissioner Durrett.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier, I would like to pull 26 just for discussion so we can have those names.
All right, we'll pull number 26 as well. Thank you, Commissioner Durrett. Anyone else? Commissioner Daly?
34 for sure, and then next week I've got solid waste and Lieutenant Walker coming in giving a little presentation on how the ordinance is working and everything.
Okay.
I got one more, and I'll find it here in just a second.
Okay, we're going to add agenda item 34. We'll add 2 presentations on the agenda for next week. Just for the viewing public, today also will be our first zoning meeting beginning at 5 p.m. here in the large assembly room. And then also just a note, the public ordinance meeting has been rescheduled to June 15th at 4:30 p.m. So if you would kindly make those notes in your calendar. I'm sorry, July. Correction there, July 15th. I want to quickly just apologize for Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair. They have been detained just a little bit, but they'll be here. So they asked me to kind of step in on the fly, so isn't this fun? So we're going to get started. How about that?
Madam Chair, 46.
Commissioner Daly's adding number 46. Okay. So the first item that has been pulled looks to be number 22. That is me. Thank you for your patience. So this is the consideration of a resolution of the Commission of Knox County, Tennessee, approving the schematic design of the new Farragut Area Elementary School by McCarty Holsap McCarty, Inc. I pulled this because I've been having conversations with the citizens who own property adjacent to the proposed school. I've also been talking with Mr. Adams in Knox County Schools, and we're trying to address several of their concerns. And those concerns include preserving the character and the heritage of the immediate area, following the design standards of the town of Farragut, consider traffic calming measures on Boring Road, consider a traffic stacking pattern that keeps vehicles off of public roads, consider a designated school bus stacking pattern that keeps buses off of public roads, installation of a traffic light at Boring Road and Smith. Currently, there are no road improvements in the town of Farragut 5-year capital plan on Boring Road from Kingston Pike. The property is in need of mowing. Consider a planted buffer of 100 feet. And also, they were going to inquire with Ingalls to see if it'd be agreeable to route a traffic pattern on that property. So those are the things that I've asked Mr. Garfield to come before us and address and let us know how those are going to be mitigated and what the discussions have been. So that's really why I pulled that item. Anyone have any discussion? Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The 100-foot buffer, is that the basic? Thank you, sir. It didn't quite kick in there. Thanks, Madam Chair. On the 100-foot buffer, is that going to be just strictly on the east side or the west side of Boring Road then?
Yes, correct.
It's
Those
not gonna be on
properties
the north
adjacent,
side.
right, adjacent to property owners.
Okay, and then what is the, when you say X, how did you classify through the Ingalls property?
And that was a question that the town of Farragut was going to reach out and inquire. We think the likelihood of that is very slim, but they did want the question asked, and so we want to be able to let our constituents know that the question was asked.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Durrett?
My question has left. Will Mr. Garfield be here next Monday?
He will.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
he's going to be prepared to present and talk about some of these concerns and considerations.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, we will move on to agenda item 26. Let's see, and that is Commissioner Daly.
That wasn't me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Durrett.
Thank you. I just pulled this because I would like Mr. Caldwell, if he's here, to give us the names of the reappointments, and then I know there's one space for appointment and who our candidates are for that.
I'll fill in for Mac McWhorter. I'll give you what I know, if that's okay. I'm telling you, Tiffany Gardner is a reappointment, and Bill Fox is a reappointment. And there are, let's see if I can get these. There are two individuals for the open seat. One is a partner at Cope Architects. I cannot recall her name at this time. Drew, do you have that? Do you?
Casey Petco or Jen?
That's it. So Casey Petco, and then the other nominee is Ms. Janet Testerman. I think that, and Janet is in the audience if you may had any questions for her. So two reappointments and then two for one position. And I know that Mac McWhorter will be here on Monday to answer any questions and talk about the appointment terms.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Ms. Testerman, would you like to say anything?
Hello, everyone. Janet Testerman, 6511 South North Shore Drive. Yes, I've submitted my name for consideration for the Industrial Development Board. Have spoken to Mr. Odom about this appointment and about his vision for the board and ongoing. And obviously, my desire to continue to be involved in this community, and I think the expansion of businesses, the recruitment of businesses to this community is vitally important. And I'm really, certainly interested in helping fulfill that vision and move the board's initiatives along. So happy to answer any other questions, but I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you for being here. Commissioners, have any other questions? All right, then we will move on to agenda item number 29. Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask the engineering department to give us a quick overview on the costs associated with our paving budget, particularly how those costs have changed in the last 3 years. And then also in the new fiscal year, based on the new rates, how many miles in Knox County do they anticipate they'll be able to pave?
Good afternoon, everybody. So we've got two hot mix hauling and placement contracts this year. One is for our regular paving of regular width roads, and the narrow roads paving contract is for those roads that are about 15 foot and narrower, and that have an in-out pattern, so they're a dead end. You can't pull a truck all the way through. So the purpose of splitting them out in this way was to ensure that any increased costs that we might incur for the narrow roads were isolated to just those roads. So we weren't bringing in any inflationary prices into the entire contract. So looking back at the rates that we've got on each of the items that are in our contract over the last few years, between fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 25, line items have on average increased by 9%. So if we look at certain line items, you'll see that typically they're in, let me see, so we've got certain items are much higher than others in terms of the increases, but a lot of those are really low-cost increases. So for example, on one of the line items, the unit price is $2 per linear foot, and it's gone up to $4 per linear foot over the course of those fiscal years, which looks like a very large increase, but in fact, it's actually quite small. The difference in the paving costs that we've got on this bid between our regular contract and our narrow road contract, the narrow road contract items are about 10% higher than our regular contract. Looking at the costs to pave a mile of road on the different kinds of roads that we have here, we're looking at paving a subdivision road, which is typically around 26 foot wide, and we typically pave with E-mix. In 2023, the cost we would have had for that for a mile of road would be $170,532. Now, in FY25, we've got a cost of $185,289. So that represents, I think it's about a 6% increase on those items. This doesn't account for any kind of work that we might need to do prior to prepare the road. So there's no cost for undercutting, wedge milling, leveling, anything like that, or any of the culvert replacements that might be needed. This is simply for laying of asphalt on those roads. For a county collector road, so we cannot use the cheaper mix asphalt on those because there's too high traffic. For a county collector road that on average is 22 foot wide, we would be looking at a difference in cost from FY23 of $159,384 per mile to $169,303. So typically we can we do pave around 38 to 40 miles a year. I didn't actually do the math on how many fewer miles we would be able to pave, but we're also very fortunate that Chris Caldwell gives us increases in paving budgets every year, so we typically sit around that 40 miles, regardless of the cost increases for the items.
Madam Chair, can I also address number 30 at the same time?
Sure, I was
then?
just about to ask if you'd like to.
Thank you. On the 15 feet or less of the 2,000 miles that we have of county roads in Knox County, how many are 15 feet or less?
Let me find that answer because I did ask it. Okay, so we have, sorry, let me find this here. Okay, let me see. 533. So there are 182.7 miles, which represent 533 individual roads.
That sounds better. I was a little
Yeah.
concerned when
Sorry about that.
25% of our roads are less than 15 feet. So, okay.
And with those, it's kind of interesting. We've got, with those, we've got the majority are between 12 and 15 feet. And it's an average length of about 1,400 foot. there are only 11 streets that are narrower than 10 foot, but narrower than 10 foot's pretty narrow.
Okay. That's kind of similar to the private drive that goes up to Commissioner Daley's house then, I guess, the less than 10 feet on Government Farm Road.
Pretty thin, yeah,
Yeah.
there's no two-way traffic on those roads.
So with, if I'm doing the math right, 2,000 miles of county roads, is that still an accurate number?
It is, it depends on whether, yes, I think that's pretty accurate.
Okay.
It's around
And so-
1,900 and something.
And so we can do 40 miles per year? So we've got, we can repave every road every 50 years? Okay. Well, I just wanted the information for this body and then for the folks listening at home, so.
Absolutely, and we've done a lot of looking at kind of projecting what we can do with our pavement, with the new pavement management system. It's been really helpful. And there are some different techniques that we can use in order to elongate the lifetime of our roads. Oftentimes, those techniques aren't as palatable to the citizenry. So some of those kind of techniques could be putting on chip seals on some of rural roads, but I know a lot of people aren't really excited about having loose stones on the roads, even if they're in rural areas. So we're trying to work through the best techniques that we can employ to be able to elongate the life cycle of our roads. One of the things that we're looking at doing this year is putting on a product called Reclamite, and it's something that goes on about 3 years after a road has been freshly paved. So you may start to hear about that in your districts. Once a road has been paved, we come back 3 years after and put on a very low-cost treatment that puts the oils back in the road, and it actually prevents those roads from oxidizing quite as quickly. So we're starting to bring some of these new techniques into our toolbox.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Daley.
Miss Kathy, don't leave yet. The narrow roads, that does not include your in-house paving.
No, it doesn't. So our in-house paving, what we typically try and do is we identify short sections of road that will either be well addressed. So say, for example, you've got a short section of road that has some kind of situation-specific reason why it's deteriorating quicker than the rest of the roads. In those cases, we'll get our in-house paving crew to go out there, do the undercutting that needs to be done, do some improvements, and then relay the same level of asphalt back in there, and that'll work. Once you start getting into longer segments of road, it's much harder to justify using our in-house crews. It's cheaper and just more efficient to use a different crew to come in. With those narrow roads, we've been unable to get to those roads for the past few years. It's been something that's been sitting there on a list that we just haven't had the resource to be able to actually go out there and do it. So this is a way for us kind of to jump ahead, get ahead of that backlog, and once you pave some of these really narrow roads with very low traffic volume, it's unlikely they're going to deteriorate the same rate of decay as your collector road. So we're hoping that by doing this, we're going to push those out for quite a while.
You've done quite a few in my area, and you can't tell a difference unless you see the truck as far as that goes. They do a great job. How many, is the cost per mile or whatever the same as this contract?
It's
Can we-
not, no, so it would be hard for me to give you a number right off the bat, but we do have our own contract with similar agencies like APAC. We have a contract with them as well as PRI and some of the other vendors that will give us hot mix. We'll go and pick it up and put it in the paving truck and then go and lay it down ourselves. It's a lot cheaper if you're just looking at that item, but what it doesn't include is kind of the time away from other projects and then the cost of your equipment and your labor and everything else. So this is just a way to kind of supplement the, I guess, the low staffing that everybody has at the moment.
I understand, and that is there to do the narrow roads, to do the short. Lindbergh was like maybe 3/8 of a mile, and you guys did that, and you couldn't tell any difference if it was. But I appreciate it, and I got one question to ask you, and I don't understand, and you probably don't know this, but why does, I'm gonna say TDOT, they put about that much asphalt, and then about that much asphalt, and then they put that much asphalt on Alcoa Highway, and it's all, that top layer is already coming up? Why is that, why did they do a 2-inch? We don't do a 2-inch, do we?
We do, I mean, if you're talking about the way a road is actually constructed, you've got
Yeah.
your
They
sub-base
put
and
the
your base. and-
2-inch layer on top.
Yeah.
And the first winter comes along, the water seeps through, and it's a pothole. And I just don't, it's interesting why they just do it. There's got to be a reason, I don't know, but looks like a thicker layer than 2 inches would be better. That's
Yeah,
a deeper pothole, I guess. Thank you.
thank you.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you very much. Kathy, do you know how many miles of road do we accept each year on average? New road.
That will be a phone a friend kind of a thing. I've got someone who tallies that up, but I don't have it in my brain right now.
I'd love if you would tell us that at some point.
I will.
And Commissioner Schoonmaker, I appreciate your question, but I think it's twice as bad as you think. Last time I went through this exercise with EPW, which was about 2 years ago, they had talked about the basic maintenance of roads in that the longer we wait to take care of the issue, the more those roads deteriorate. The cost of repaving a normal road is whatever, and then if you wait until it deteriorates to a certain point, it's another third as much, and if you wait to a certain point, it's twice as much. I mean, it gets worse and worse, and the price goes up and up. And the basic maintenance should be about 10% every year. So we should be, just to do basic maintenance, not even new roads, we should be doing about 10% every year. And for as long as I went back through the records, 60 was the most we ever did in 1 year, even with some additional funding. I think it was 60 or 62. So if you hear 40, that's 160 miles this year that didn't get touched, that should have. Last year, another 160, and you can do the math. We have almost as many miles of road that have been ignored as we do actual miles of road when it comes down to the maintenance, because obviously some are higher traffic and they need to be done more often. Some, can be done once every 25 or 30 years. But the reality is that there's several neighborhoods that I've talked to this year that were built somewhere between 25 and 35 years ago, and their roads have never, ever been touched in 25 to 35 years. So the delta of what we have to tackle is so far greater, and it's probably more like a 90 or 100-year road plan at this point, even if we could catch up. So just adding some more context, but I appreciate you bringing it up. It's something we've talked about for a long time, and the price continues to go up, and the amount of miles that we pave continue to go down, and it's not a good formula. So thank you.
Are there any other questions for Kathy? Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kathy, one other thing, and I was actually going to wait till next week, but since we're talking about roads, on number 6 on our agenda, I've not seen this before, where we're going to accept DeBusk Lane as a new county road, but it looks like when we accept it, we're going to spend $53,000 to pave it. Is that correct? Or is that just the number of, once we accept that road, 50 years from now, it'll be $53,000 to repave it?
That's the way I understand it.
Okay.
I believe that's just a figure that is typically presented when we accept new roads. We do a bit of calculation so that you're all aware of what that maintenance burden will be going forth, but because this does not have that traditional paperwork with it, I think they just added that.
Okay, but it was a private road previously, and then now we're going to accept it as a county road then?
Yes.
Okay. But it doesn't have to be 100% condition when we accept it, potentially?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I believe what we have to make sure that it's built to county standards, but I don't believe it has to be freshly paved.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Kathy, you gave us some really great information. Would you care to email the data that you just provided to everyone? I think it would be a great reference material for every commissioner.
I'd be happy to, and I know Jim and I have talked about this a lot, but we'd be absolutely happy to give you guys a presentation on paving or what we've learned through this pavement management process if you're interested in learning more. Obviously, it can get kind of boring really quickly, so I don't want to bore everybody to pieces, but that's always an option if you'd like to.
Thank you, that would be great. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to move on to agenda item number 33, and I had pulled this. This is the mobility study for the Choteau area in southwest Knox County. I wanted to ask for a timeline, and then also if we could consider conducting this study during school session, when school is in session, and also possibly spring sports. But I don't want to delay the study. You know, we often hear from our constituents, it's great that you did a mobility study, but you didn't hit the peak hours or the peak times of year. So, and the thing that I hear the most is when school is in session.
Yeah, we have a traffic engineering group in Engineering and Public Works, and one of the guys that participates on that is a contractor called Alan Childers, and he constantly talks about the weirdness of Hardin Valley traffic, and he said it operates unlike a lot of other areas that he's studied. We typically try and get our traffic counts during school because this is a common problem everywhere. For example, we're doing traffic calming counts for our traffic calming program, and we stopped the vendor from taking those counts during the summer because we think they're just not going to be representative of the worst case scenario. We'll definitely do that in both the East Knox and the Hardin Valley, the Choteau areas. In terms of a timeline, in Choteau, what we have is part of this project. So for the East Knox project, part of what they're going to be doing is putting together a data model, and it's very similar to our strategic transportation plan that we did many years ago. Basically is just a data model, a table that looks at all of our roads and then collects attributes about it like AADT, width, number of crashes and things like that. And what we can do is start to look at where the crashes are happening, look at the attributes, and then predict where crashes might happen elsewhere based on similar attributes. Maybe once, if existing volumes are really low, but as volumes rise, you might say, oh, this has got the same attributes as this road over here. We can anticipate that there are going to be an increase in crashes here. So we are doing work with CDM to do the data model in East Knox County, and then Cannon is actually going to use that data model so we're consistent in Choteau. So there is a little bit of a time delay because of that. So, but we're looking at trying to get that started ASAP. They're going to be waiting on that data model, and they'll plug that in. I think Jim was looking at kind of winter having something. Okay. But if there is a need to take into account the spring sports, I know along kind of the Cove area, it's really impactful. We can certainly take that into consideration.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other questions, commissioners? Commissioner Ward.
Thank you. What are they, I mean, Choteau is a very unique area. What are they studying, or what are they trying to look for? Because there's only 2 ways in and 2 ways out. It's busy. I can tell you that. I don't know what $90,000 is going to tell us. I'm just trying to get a grasp for what we're spending money on.
Certainly. So this is going to be looking at trying to quantify existing issues. So
Okay.
First of all, doing a study and saying, okay, the existing number of folks living in the Choteau Peninsula, where are the choke points and what needs to be done in order to fix those, to get them up to a certain standard that we would accept, whether it's safety standards or whether it's capacity standards and delays. We're also going to be looking at growth. So what kind of growth could we expect to happen in Choteau, and what kind of impact would that have on the roads? And then what are some mitigating measures you could take? So those are the kind of things that we're going to be looking at, and it's not just a what's wrong now and what's the cost of what we're going to do to fix it. It's what's wrong now, what would it look like in the future, and what would it cost to fix those different scenarios or problems that might arise.
Okay. This one just seems, out of all the places, it just seems very obvious to me, especially with, the only thing you can do is make North Shore wider, basically, or redo the underpass at the bridge. There's your choke points and the only way in and only way out of the whole entire space going into Knox County that we can control, because going into Loudoun County doesn't really matter because we can't control that part. So is it gonna grow more? Yeah, I mean, all the land's almost built out, but it'll grow some more. There'll be more traffic. I hate seeing $90,000 to go for a very common sense kind of prediction here, like, all right, here's 90 grand, you're gonna tell us exactly what I just told you. It's just kind of, I don't know if it's the greatest. You can pay me half and I can put it in writing, be more efficient that way, save us some money, but.
I understand. I guess it's not just looking at capacity issues, so not just looking at the choke points, but it's also looking at areas where increasing traffic might lead to more accidents. So if you're looking all the way down Chodo Road, you're looking at some of the roads down on the peninsula.
Yeah.
We're also potentially looking at the impact on the town of Farragut's infrastructure, because I know that's something that we wanted to look at to be good partners with the town.
Yeah, again, it's just, there's only 2 roads. That's it.
Commissioners, any other questions? That's why we're not traffic engineers, right? Okay. Looking at agenda item number 34, Commissioner Daley.
Thank you, Commissioner. Item 34 is the leader grant, and I have solid waste, probably Drew Thurman will come and do a rundown of what the leader grant program is. Some of it goes to KKB for, actually for teaching about litter, kits, stuff like that. That's got to be part of this grant, so they're going to go over that. Also, and I'll probably try to invite Lizzie also to come and give a little update on KKB at the same time. And then Lieutenant Walker will come and give us some news about tire dumping and illegal dumpings and how many signs companies that he's contacted, how many arrest warrants he's put out, which you'll be surprised. And also, if you see, some people do, some people don't. I think Commissioner Schoonmaker appreciates you. He sees a sign in the right of way. He takes a picture of it, sends it in, pick it up. It's illegal. It's not, except for political signs. Do not pick up political signs. You don't want the picture in the paper picking up a political sign. And garage sale signs are legal for 3 days, is all they're legal for. So look forward for this next week, and you'll get some good information. I'll have Drew send it out next end of the week or sometime once I get it from him. So looking forward to next Monday.
And Commissioner Daley, you did want to add that as a presentation, correct? Okay.
I'm sorry. I think it just needs to be at the agenda item. Let them come up and just like Kathy just did and answer the question. So.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Moving on to agenda item number 46. Commissioner Daley, I believe this is yours as well.
It is. It's from Parks and Rec, and not to steal any Parks and Rec's thunder, and the AMBC, they done a great job of purchasing some land behind Anderson School, the old Anderson School over Prospect Road off Chapman Highway. And I just want Joe Mack and maybe one of the AMBC guys to be here to, it adds a little bit more behind the school, and it extends the urban wilderness, that's for sure.
Okay. And they'll be here next Monday? All right. Any other questions? there anything else on the agenda that anyone would like to discuss? Wanted to quickly just go back to our presentations. I had asked Callie Archer to come and speak to us with junior achievement. One thing that this commission did in our last budget cycle was we funded the opportunity for every fifth grader in Knox County to attend BizTown if they were able to. And that, I really advocated for that because we do not have a program in Knox County Schools currently that aligns elementary age students with the 865 Academy's mission and goal of introducing career opportunities and exploration to our students at earlier ages. And so what this does is it enables those fifth grade students and those schools that want to participate the ability to attend BizTown, where they get to elect a mayor, they learn how to vote, they have to manage a budget, they have to work, they have to open a bank account, a savings account. If you have not been to BizTown, I really encourage you to check it out. It's such a great program, and that's just something that I'm really proud of that we're able to do. So she'll be here to talk a little bit about that. Commissioner Durrett?
I second that because my daughter got to participate this year. And she was the election commissioner.
Awesome.
And so she got to go around and show everyone, get everyone's vote for different items, that she got to create the ballot as well. She got to choose from a select number of ballot initiatives. And so it was really cool to see that happen. They had a mayor, they have city hall, they have businesses, they have a food court, they have all kinds of things. And so I definitely recommend going, even if it's just for a visit, going and checking it out. It's really awesome.
Thank you, Commissioner Durrett. And with that,
Can I make one other comment?
oh, yes, Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Thank you. When you mentioned that they had the opportunity to vote, something just clicked, but the Election Commission is actually having 2 different early voting locations. And since our July meeting is prior to, or after early voting starts, one is in my district where they're going to actually vote at the Election Commission West Office in the Lovell Heights, but I think the other one is it in your district that there's one other location that's being changed?
I don't know about change. I know they added Clear Springs Baptist Church, but that was I think they added that one in March.
There's 2 new ones. I can't think what district they're in, but people used to be able to go to the West Knox Senior Center and vote last time. That's not going to be an option this year, so.
There are some renovations being done at Carter, but I don't know if that changes the voting location.
I'll see if
I'll have to
maybe
check on
before
that.
next week we can let everybody know, so.
And as always, we do encourage everyone to vote. So, and
Absolutely.
with that, I will adjourn our agenda review session.